Babri Masjid dispute before pronouncing the verdict in November 2019. Many believe that among the 5 judges who were, he was instrumental in also writing down the judgment, although the chair was the then Chief Justice Ranjan Gogoi. Now, looking back at the challenges he faced ahead of the verdict, Chief Justice of India, Dr. DY Chandrachud, stated, "Very often we have cases to adjudicate, but we don't arrive at a solution. Something similar happened during the Ayodhya dispute, which was in front of him for the last 3 months, for about 3 months. He sat before the deity and told the deity that he needs to find a solution," the Chief Justice stated. Emphasizing that he prays regularly, the Chief Justice asserted that if you have faith, God will always find a way. On November 9, 2019, a 5-judge Supreme Court bench led by the then Chief Justice of India, Justice Ranjan Gogoi, including Justice Dr. DY Chandrachud, resolved the Ram Janmabhoomi dispute, bringing an end to a nearly 70-year-old conflict in Azad Bharat, but more importantly, a feud that's been going on for nearly 5 centuries. The verdict allowed the construction of a Ram temple in Ayodhya at Ram Janmabhoomi, and it also very clearly underlined that that area was indeed Ram Lala Virajman, while designating an alternative 5-acre plot for the mosque in Ayodhya itself at an area and place which is agreeable to all. Now, the opposition went after Chief Justice DY Chandrachud over his comments. Earlier in the day, Samajwadi Party MP and very senior leader, veteran leader Gopal Yadav, in fact went on to abuse him using a cuss word, and then later on went on to clarify that he did not even know that he was being asked a question on the Chief Justice. Whereas, if you look at the entire sequence, you know very well that the reporter is asking that a comment has been made by the Chief Justice on Sunday, and this is what he said. To which Gopal Yadav responded. First he said, "Why are you talking about if you hang on to the ghosts or hang on to the past, you will only have ghosts around you." That he said that the Ram Janmabhoomi is a settled matter, why talk about it again? And then when the reporter again said that it's the Chief Justice, current Chief Justice, who talked about it, that's when he used the cuss word for him, saying that such people, such people, am I going to respond to everything that they say? Congress leader Udit Raj said, had the Chief Justice of India prayed for other issues, then misuse of agencies would have stopped. Uddhav Balasaheb Thackeray, Sena leader, went on to say that he should have prayed before delivering verdicts on Sena versus Sena or NCP versus NCP tussles in the top court. Now, this is not the first time that Justice DY Chandrachud has invoked faith, and this is not the first time that the opposition is targeting him over his faith and his open expression of it. Earlier in January this year, when the Chief Justice embarked on temple visits to the Dwarkadish temple in Dwarka town and Somnath temple in Somnath in Gir Somnath district, Justice Chandrachud said that district court lawyers must function in a manner that the Dhwaja of justice keeps flying for generations to come, just like the Dhwaja or flags atop temples which bind all of us together. And the pseudo-liberal lobby targeted him for visiting Dwarkanath temple, Dwarkadish, clad in saffron. He was merely envisioning universality, but he was mocked. Then earlier in September, when Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited the Chief Justice for Ganesh Puja, the opposition targeted him yet again, raising questions on his oath to office on the right stand. We debunked this narrative with facts on how previous occasions Prime Ministers, including Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh, hosting an iftar party at his residence in 2009, had the attendance of the then Chief Justice of India, K.G. Balakrishnan. Now, yet again, the opposition leaders have raised questions on the Chief Justice linked to his faith and to his seeking spiritual help or a divine intervention to a complex issue. Chief Justice of India in June this year had said that judges are not deities and it was dangerous to think of court as a temple of justice. He would rather recast the role of the judge as a server of the people. To serve the people and to seek divine blessings, the Chief Justice of India had turned to the Almighty days ahead of a gargantuan verdict, a huge mammoth verdict. Is it right to politicize such an act? Is it a sin that the Chief Justice of India has sought divine intervention to a complex issue? Is it a sin that the Chief Justice of India prayed ahead of the Ayodhya verdict? Did he go against the constitution or did he violate his oath to office by praying? The opposition's been screaming for faith in the justice system, and they've called and said that the only thing they repose is faith in the justice system. But why create fuss if the Chief Justice himself has faith? Let's take it across to Tuhin Sinha, national spokesperson of the BJP, and Nikul Patel, leader of the Congress party, after we play out these reactions.
जेव्हा मी अयोध्येचं काम माझ्या पुढे आलं होतं, आणखी आम्ही 3 महिने अयोध्येच्या कामावर आम्ही विचार करत होतो. म्हणजे शेकडो वर्ष ज्याला कोणी सोल्युशन मानलं नाही ते काम आमच्या पुढे आलं होतं. आणि त्यावेळेला एक असं झालं ते काम चालत असताना की ह्याच्यात मार्ग कसा शोधायचा, आम्हाला कोणालाही माहिती नव्हतं ह्याच्यात मार्ग कसा शोधता येईल. त्यावेळेला मी आपल्या दररोजच्या दैनंदिन जीवनात माझी जी पूजा करतो तेव्हा मी देवांच्या पुढे भगवंतांच्या पुढे मी बसतो तिथे आणि मी त्यांना सांगितलं ह्याच्यात मार्ग तुम्हीच शोधून द्या. आणि आपला जर का विश्वास असेल, आपली आस्था असेल तर मार्ग आपल्याला नेहमी देव शोधून देतात.
हमें उस पर कोई कमेंट नहीं करा. ये छोड़ो कमेंट. जो जब भूतों को जिंदा करते हो, मुर्दों को, तो भूत बन जाते हो, जब के पीछे पड़ जाते. ऐसे डोंट टॉक दीस प्रॉब्लम्स नाउ. दे आपको दे कौन प्रॉब्लम, सब कहाँ है वो? अब तो अपनी बाबरी मस्जिद और ये मंदिर दिख रहा है.
सब रविवार की बात है.
छोड़ो यार, में इसी तरह की बातें कहते रहते. Should I take notice of them? कोई CJI संबंध में सवाल ही किसी ने नहीं पूछा. Nobody has asked any question about CJI. CJI is a very erudite person, excellent person. अरे हमने कौन सी टिप्पणी की? जब तक CJI के बारे में किसी ने पूछा ही नहीं. दादा कोई चीज जोड़ो अलग बात. हमसे सिर्फ बहराइच के बारे में पूछा, उसके बारे में पूछा, बहराइच के लोग ये कह रहे, फलाने ये कह रहे. CJI का तो कोई सवाल ही नहीं.
One may want to take Dr. Ram Gopal Yadav's comment, the clarification, with a pinch of salt, because the earlier sequence very clearly says शनिवार को, रविवार को त्या अयोध्या पर चीफ जस्टिस ने कहा. That's what the reporter says, to which he had reacted, and then he pushes him on that. But all right, we'll let that matter rest, because Akhilesh Yadav said Samajwadi Party respects the Chief Justice of India immensely. And he said he didn't know what Dr. Ram Gopal Yadav had said. And soon after came the clarification from Ram Gopal Yadav. Tuhin Sinha, national spokesperson of the BJP with us. Nikul Patel, leader of the Congress party with us. My namaste and jai hind to you, gentlemen. Festive greetings. We are on the offset of, or right in the middle of a lot of festivities. But Chief Justice of Bharat cannot show faith, Tuhin. Is that the case? Or is it that you are not allowed an open expression of your faith? You can show you have gone to a Buddhist vihara. You can show if you have gone to a mosque, if you have gone to a gurudwara. All that is kosher. But the moment you say that you follow Sanatan values, you go to Ram Mandir, Somnath, Dwarkadish, or you say that you sought divine intervention ahead of an important judgment, that's not done. You disappoint perhaps liberals.
Well, absolutely. You've hit the nail, Anand. I think one must appreciate the candor of Justice Chandrachud, because it takes a lot of honesty for him to say that in a crisis situation he goes to Lord Ram. And I think that candor should be appreciated. But those who are fundamentally dishonest will not appreciate that candor. Point number one, do you have to profess being an atheist or agnostic before becoming a Supreme Court judge? If no, then the Supreme Court judge, then the Honorable CJI has full right to be unapologetic about invoking God to arrive at a correct judgment. I think it needs to be appreciated. Point number two, Ram is an idea. Ram is a sentiment. Ram is an emotion. Ram is dharma rather. And those who are always, who have very little value system left in them will obviously not subscribe to the sentiments of Bhagwan Ram. So any which way, Ram stands for Ram Rajya, Ram stands for justice, Ram stands for fair play. So if he did invoke Bhagwan Ram before delivering justice, that becomes all the more, the judgment becomes all the more credible.
My point is...
Thirdly,
look
at the history of...
Please complete.
Look at the history of Samajwadi Party. This is the party which has presided over the worst brutal killings of car sevaks in 1990. The Congress Party is guilty of repeatedly, through its lawyer, then lawyer Kapil Sibal, repeatedly trying to prolong the judgment and not arrive at a judgment. And finally, the Supreme Court, there are times we don't agree with the Supreme Court judgment. For example, 2 days ago, Supreme Court very categorically refused to extend the child marriage ban to all faiths. So do we cast aspersions on the judge? So I think, it speaks a lot about the integrity of CJI when he's so candid, and it also speaks a lot about the lack of integrity of our opposition parties, where they continue to cast aspersions on the Ram Temple judgment, where the simple fact is that they still haven't come to terms with the construction of Ram Temple.
Yeah, it's like you can practice your faith but don't be vocal about it. Especially if it is Sanatan Pratha, Nikul Patel. Is that true?
Yes.
Is that fair? आप मंदिर जा रहे जाइए बट खुल के मत बोलिए. भगवत गीता पढ़ते हैं पढ़िए बट खुल के मत बोलिए. शिव की आराधना करते हैं, काशी विश्वनाथ जाने, दिखाने की क्या जरूरत है? चुपचाप करिए ना. Why?
I would like to pray to the God that today in this particular debate, He helps me out to carry out all my speeches and activity and defend all your questions very correctly, so that it would not affect the Sanatan Dharma. I pray to the God. Now I would like to start. Thank you very much, Rahul, for giving me the opportunity.
This is Anand here, Nikul, and Nikul, the fact is, Nikul, if you can pray openly on national television, that's all right. But Justice Chandrachud can't. ये क्या logic?
That is what now you are supporting my activity. Otherwise, on the other way, you might have said that, see, you are not having an intellectual property of your own. You are not able to speak, and now you are praying the God.
You are preempting my questions. I have never challenged your intelligence. I may disagree with your logic and your arguments at times, but never challenged your intelligence. Please go ahead.
That is the other way around of the perception. You can speak in both the ways. Okay. So I have defended myself on one side, and then I have given my justification on the other side of your query. Now, when it comes to a particular case in a Supreme Court, definitely we believe that facts and documents that are being submitted to the court and our honorable judges are fair enough to give their judgments based on their understanding, based on their intellectual power, based on their experience over a period of time, and then whatever they give, it is acceptable to the entire country. And we accept that, and all have accepted that. The thing that has come to the picture today, because something that is out of the blue, or we can say that some statement by the Chief Justice that came had created a controversy, and definitely if he say that God sabko rasta dikhai, he's good, he's believing, he's in faith, but he's particularly quoting a case and then he's stating that. So something is, we can say that people have question on it, and definitely in the freedom of speech, freedom of right, anybody can ask question why you have stated such statement. We have faith in everyone. We believe that everyone must respect their religion, everyone must respect their God, everyone must respect their deity. But when it comes to practice, where I have started, if I am into this debate, then it's my intellectual, my party, what gives me a responsibility. Based on that, I have to speak.
I agree, but even then you would seek some divine intervention to say, allow me to do my case, do justice to my position, whatever role I have to play, allow me to do justice to that place. If you seek that divine intervention, especially human beings, by default when all is well, we don't think of the Almighty. हमको भगवान प्रभु तब आते हैं जब हम लोग मुश्किल में होते हैं. इसीलिए कई लोगों का नाम जो है विघ्नहर्ता है, संकट मोचन है. That's because by default that's human pravritti. Here he is very candid to say that he is also a human being, and he was also doing a complex role as part of a 5-judge constitution bench, which had to deal on a decide on a matter which was pending for 70 years since our independence, and more than 500 years even through the British Raj. Multiple cases had been filed, and there were from the Mughal period into the British Raj. This happened. Even the Marathas could not resolve it. That's the reality. Yeah, we should never forget that between the Mughals and the British, there was a 70-year Maratha rule. I'll keep plugging it in because our history books don't talk about it very well. But we are digressing. Tuhin Sinha, the point is that he shouldn't have mentioned. Why did he mention his faith and the fact that he prayed only for the Ayodhya? That's where the controversy is, Tuhin, according to Nikul Patel.
Anand, as you mentioned, this was a 491-year-old case. To resolve a 491-year-old case requires a lot of adroitness, it requires a lot of sagacity, and it also requires the blessings of the Almighty, because there are sentiments, there is fervor involved. So like I mentioned, it was very easy for Chandrachud, Justice Chandrachud ji, to avoid the mention of Bhagwan Ram. By mentioning Bhagwan Ram, I think that unapologetic character in him needs to be applauded all the more. Because like I said, those who have a very short, very limited or very contrived understanding of Bhagwan Ram will not understand this fact that Bhagwan Ram himself stands for fair play, justice, maryada, dharma. And therefore, he can never be an interested party. The Ram temple was obviously the bone of contention. But Bhagwan Ram is a sentiment. Bhagwan Ram is itself faith. So I don't understand why anybody should have a problem. Even जब आप शपथ लेते हैं, जब मंत्री शपथ लेते हैं, जब चीफ जस्टिस शपथ लेते हैं, तो भगवान ईश्वर के नाम पर शपथ लेते हैं. अब वो ईश्वर कौन है, वो ईश्वर स्पेसिफाई नहीं करना या करना है, वो तो आपके इंडिविजुअल की स्वेच्छा होती है ना. तो मेरे ख्याल से ये बिना बात का जो है, ये लोग को कंट्रोवर्सी क्रिएट करने की आदत हो गई है.
No, it's not about that. Is it because let me ask the question and why address the elephant in the room, Nikul Patel. It's not the fact that Justice DY Chandrachud prays or he's vocal about. It's the fact that is there a set within this so-called ecosystem, the left liberal ecosystem, which thought ye to apna aadmi hai, and now the person is doing all that which is supposedly more Hindutva and less quote-unquote secular. And is there this disappointment and this angst? अरे ये क्या कर दिया? अरे ये क्या कर दिया? तुम तो अपना हमारे आदमी थे. No, I'm just saying this kind of a sentiment was there. अरे अपना, now we'll get all the judgments in our favor. Justice Chandrachud is the Chief Justice of India, and he is doing Ganesh Puja, and he is going to Dwarkadish, and he is going to Somnath, and he was there at Ram Janmabhoomi, at Ram Lala's temple once Ram Lala was truly Virajman and the Pran Pratishtha was over. And then Ganesh Puja happened. So is this all that disappointment and that anger coming from this set?
Rahul, I would like to say that...
This is Anand here. I don't know why you are confusing between Anand and Rahul Shivshankar today. Nikul, I have to keep reminding you. Last time though, but go ahead.
Okay. So that is happened. That is what I say that कि भाई जो भी बोलूं ऊपर वाले के दया पे रखना, बराबर है. आप जो भी समझो आप समझना है.
नहीं, पर आपने मुझे लगता है शिद्दत से प्रे नहीं किया, इसीलिए जवान फिसल रही है. चलिए, continue.
Okay. See, I would like to say that whenever it comes to Congress, we have respected everyone and in the country, whether it is Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, Isai. You see, when you start a debate, Bharatiya Janata Party person rightly said that we are believing in this faith, Congress is not believing in this faith, and you ask the question that whether CJI is going to Dwarka or Ayodhya. See, everyone can practice and profess their own religion, and that is what our constitution says. And not you, but even Bharatiya Janata Party wants to always portray that Congress is anti-Hindu. But I don't understand why they want to portray that image, or they want to become pro-Hindu and want to say that Congress is doing this, but they don't want to understand the gist of the objection that is being raised, and they want to make it religious deliberately, and then want to try to hammer it out that Congress is anti-Hindu. I don't understand. I think in last 70 years, Congress had never stopped anyone going to the temple. Congress had never stopped anyone practicing any religion in the country. I don't understand why that question comes.
उदित राज कांग्रेस लीडर हैं कि नहीं है? उदित राज कांग्रेस लीडर हैं? उदित राज कांग्रेस लीडर हैं कि नहीं है? Till 1946, Congress was branded as a Hindu party, sir. How is it that 75 years later they become not a Hindu party? That the Congress party has to answer that question.
That is what we are answering.
No. So you have to look at the fact that how is it that this entire 180-degree transformation of the Congress party has happened within the narrative. I didn't make the statement against Justice DY Chandrachud. The statement was made by Udit Raj first, who is a Congress leader. Then the next person is a Congress ally, part of the Indi Gadbandhan, Ram Gopal Yadav, a senior person like that. Look what he calls him. Will you tolerate someone calling something like that?
I am telling onto the national television. I am also a congressman saying the same philosophy about what Congress is, and that is what I have been here for. That to clarify what Congress is. I think as what Tuin Sinha is telling about Bharatiya Janata Party, that Congress is, I would like to say that we are never like this. They want to portray our image and they want to do the vote bank politics, and that should not be allowed. And we are here for defend that part. In entire 70 years of our career, we have never stopped anyone to profess any religion, or stopping anyone to go to temple or practice any religion.
See, very, very well said. But if you were to say that the Congress party does not do vote bank politics, that's very, very rich. That is unbelievable. Because from the overturning of the Shabano verdict downwards, it's a litany of instances, sir. I don't want to get there, but you are saying that the BJP is wrongly portraying and the Congress's stand is not that. The Congress's stand is anybody and everybody is free to practice what they want to and profess what they want to profess. Yes, Tuhin Sinha, you were saying something.
You know, Anand, in 2004, the Congress party conclusively ceased to be a Hindu party. And that is precisely the reason why in 2007, they filed an affidavit in the Supreme Court saying Bhagwan Ram is imaginary, he does not exist. In 2011, they tried unsuccessfully to bring in what would have been the most sinister bill, the communal violence.
Was it the Congress party bill, or was it the DMK which made that comment? Was it the Congress party or the DMK that said that Bhagwan Ram is imaginary? And that was in the case of the Ram Setu issue. So it was the DMK, not necessarily the Congress party. Secondly, if the Congress is not a Hindu party, so is not the BJP. So is not the BJP, because the BJP has not amended right to education. The BJP has not amended the Places of Worship Act. The BJP has not done anything as far as to freeing Hindu temples. The BJP has also not walked the talk on its claim that it is a Hindu party. Yeah, please go ahead.
No, but there is no comparison between the two. To come back to Justice Chandrachud, if we were still living in the Iftar party era, and if, before delivering the judgment, Justice Chandrachud would have been to an Iftar party, he may still have been celebrated by the ecosystem of the Congress and the left ecosystem. But the fact that, he celebrates Ganpati festival at his home, the fact that he prays to Bhagwan Ram is a big deterrent in, it goes against his acceptance in the left ecosystem.
Now that's again an argument that you are making, but I would also like to note that the 3 illegal floors of the Sanjoli Masjid in Shimla region were made under Jairam Thakur's rule. Jairam Thakur belongs to which party? Tuhin Sinha. So let's not don't claim badge value and custodianship when आप खुद ही उसमें खरे नहीं उतर रहे हैं. बहुत सारी चीजें
happening very covertly.
No, sir. No, sir. Sir, 3 floors coming right in the front of the eyes of the municipality, and at the time when Jairam Thakur was the Chief Minister of Himachal Pradesh, is evidence enough for how Hindutva or how this one is Hindu party the BJP is. So a lot of the infiltration has happened, a lot of the furji name boards have happened, illegals have come into this country over the last 10 years where the BJP has been at power at the center. So we are digressing, but I'm just making a point that you can't just overtly claim
30,000 illegal and 30,000 illegal migrants have also been deported back from Assam to Bangladesh. So there are efforts which are on. Yes, we have a lot more to do.
You are from Jharkhand and you know what Jharkhand is reeling with. But let's come back to the point. Why is the Congress party
comes there?
Let's see. वो तो फिर चुनावी जुमला है कि उसके आगे कुछ आप करते हैं वो देखा जाएगा. It's in the coming days पता लग जाएगा. But Nikul Patel, coming back to this point, is the Congress party going to take action against the likes of Udit Raj, who are the first to jump the gun and shoot their mouth?
See, that will be decided by the core working committee. If
if action is not taken, then we will say that you are playing both good cop, bad cop. इधर से भी ढोल बजा रहा है, उधर से भी ढोल बजा रहा है. Then the public confused. What's your position? Please come.
It is not like that. It is not like that. Suppose, somebody is speaking in his individual capacity, that doesn't reflect that the entire Congress is having that ideology. That is the first part. Second part, in the last whatever tenure what Congress had ruled, I rightly said, and that we have never stopped anyone to practice. Even the article says that freedom of speech. If somebody is speaking about someone, then it is his own perception. Secondly, regarding Chief Justice of India, we respect him. Thirdly, we respect his judgment, and we have already accepted that thing. And definitely, if he is professing some particular religion, faith, then it is definitely his own belief and faith, and we respect that also. I would like to say over here, as my Bharatiya Janata Party person said that Congress had done this, but I would like to let the people of this country know that don't get into this false perception of what Bharatiya Janata Party want to spread. You can look into the entire history. We as a Congress had tried to make people happy in the country by allowing them to practice any religion and faith they believe in. We have never stopped anyone, and we have
Sir,
never said that we are going to make this country of one particular religion. We always say that this is our Bharatiya, we are by birth here, and we want to make our country.
Sir, the idea was this country was supposed to be a one
happy.
particular way of life, but the rules and the legislations passed by the Congress party only furthered the growth of certain communities while marginalizing the way of life itself and trying to corrupt and corrode the way of life. Otherwise, the very DNA of our preamble, the original construct of our preamble would not have been changed during the emergency. That itself now is with the Supreme Court because they have to consider, and there is a petition that's been admitted to see what was done during emergency when most of democracy was in jail and the upper house was not even the full house, and these things, two words were inserted, changing the very economic structure policy that our country could follow, and also what the actual core DNA of our country is. That itself is under question. So if there was no ulterior motive or intent to change the way of life and the philosophy of Bharat itself under the Congress rule, then this would not have been done. The Shabano verdict of the Supreme Court would not have been overturned. The courts would not have been dismissed, and emergency would not have been imposed. There are many, sir. It's a laundry list. So let not the Congress party claim to be holier than thou. I will rest my case for the moment. Thank you very much, Tuhin Sinha and Nikul Patel. Always a pleasure speaking with you, gentlemen. Thank you. We're going to take a very, very short break. When we come back, ladies and gentlemen, we get you the details on the Ganderbal terror strike and what intel sources are telling CNN News 18. Stay with us.
Where 24 hours have gone by and the person who had placed the bomb over here has still not been identified by the Delhi police. I'll just try and show you around in the visuals over here the area in which the bomb blast happened. This is the area where the bomb blast happened, and if you look around from this entire area, on the other side are the lines, are the eateries that are lined up over here, as you have been mentioning. Now all these shops are closed at this very point. Now remember, the impact was, this entire blast was such that there are broken windows that can be seen on the other side of the road as well. Now what Delhi police sources are telling us, that in the investigation that they have done or through the CCTV footage that they have been able to go through at this point in time, 3 people can be seen as suspects or have been identified as people of interest. One of them was a person who was seen at this very spot on Saturday night at approximately 10:30, 11 p.m. in the night. He was seen at this very spot, he waited at this spot and then went away from here. That person has not been identified at this point in time. Apart from that, 2 other people who were also seen in and around this entire area having suspicion movement. Now in the CCTV footages that have been gone through by the Delhi police at this point in time, these 3 people are being said as the persons of interest. However, the identification of either of these 3 people have still not happened, and the person or the perpetrator of this entire crime has still not been identified by the Delhi police. Once the investigation was taken over by the Delhi police or started by Delhi police yesterday, there was one person who was initially interrogated by them, and then eventually he was allowed to let go of as well. So definitely at this point in time, there is no substantial evidence that the Delhi police, or for that matter any other agency, be it the NSG or the CRPF, have been able to pinpoint as to who could be the person who might be behind this attack. Yes, there are different theories that are being looked into at this point in time as to what could be the reason for using a bomb which had actually such a high radius of impact that shops which are approximately 20 to 30 meters away from this spot, they have been impacted. But interestingly, in these bombs, there sharp objects, no sharpnels, no broken glass material that was put over here, because generally in bombs or IEDs that are used, such materials are being put into the bomb, so that the entire bomb becomes more potent, so that once the explosion happens, then these objects, sharp nails and other things, could actually go ahead and hurt people, and the impact of that blast could increase. But interestingly, in this explosion, there has been no sort of sharpnels or any other sharp objects that have been used. So was this entire blast done just to give some sort of a message, is something that is being investigated. Apart from this, another thing that is being looked into is the Khalistani angle. Remember, one of the channels on Telegram, in fact, had posted this, that this entire incident has been done by Khalistani supporters, because the manner in which the attacks are happening on Khalistanis across the world, they wanted to give this message that Khalistanis are much closer to the Indian agencies that they expect. Now, if I could just show you over here, just moments ago, a team of CRPF had come over here. Remember, CRPF have this expertise when it comes to looking into ID blast, because they are the people who are operating in places like Dantewada and other places in Chhattisgarh where there is a massive moist impact and there is a lot of IEDs that are being used. So over here, there is also, it is being said that IEDs were used, and hence a team of CRPF had come up over here. They have monitored the entire location over here. They have measured the size of impact that the bomb blast has made. Somewhere or the other, they will try to figure out as to what is the quantity of explosives that were used over here, and what kind of explosive was also used over here. Was it a highly technical IED, or was it an IED that could have been made by anyone, is something that the CRPF will come out with. But at this point in time, as the investigation is going ahead, the biggest issue is that the person who had placed the bomb over here has still not been identified, and hence the reason why this blast took place on a Sunday morning at 7:30 a.m. is still not very clear. Well, this entire spot was actually closed by the Delhi police for more than 12 to 13 hours yesterday itself. It is only at approximately 7:30 to 8 p.m. in the evening yesterday that this crime scene was opened and the barricades were removed from this entire area. So during that period of 12 to 13 hours, agencies like CRPF, NSG and the Delhi police, the FSL of the Delhi police, have all visited the spot and have collected evidences from on ground over here. Now the team of CRPF that had come over here, they had just come up over here to measure the impact of this entire crime scene, or the impact of bombs that were used over here. Now, as we were speaking up of the crime scene being opened, police officers have now reached over here. They are trying to get the media away from the crime spot. But yes, as we speak, most of the evidences have already been collected from this entire area. The team of CRPF that had come up over here, they had just come up to measure the impact of this entire incident and how much explosive was used, so that such a massive hole can actually be made over here. This is something that has been measured by the CRPF at this point in time. Definitely, investigation is going on from different angles in the.
A doctor and 6 construction workers were killed when terrorists opened fire at a construction site in Gagangir in the Ganderbal district, and this happened on Sunday. A 4-member National Investigation Agency team led by a senior officer reached the terror attack site in Jammu and Kashmir's Ganderbal district at Gagangir earlier on Monday afternoon. Terrorist group the Resistance Front, again a face or a front for the Lashkar-e-Taiba, is the one that has claimed responsibility for the attack. Its chief, Sheikh Sajjad Gul, masterminded the horror. The terrorists opened fire on a camp housing workers who were working on an under-construction Z-Moth tunnel that connects Gagangir to Sonamarg in central Kashmir's Ganderbal. The gunning down of 6 migrant labourers working on the Z-Moth tunnel in Jammu and Kashmir's Ganderbal is a direct attack on the infrastructure development in the region, say top intelligence sources. There are around 20-25 tunnels in Jammu and 10 to 12 in the Leh-Ladakh side, all of which are being built on the National Highway number 1. The Z-Moth tunnel is a crucial tunnel with several companies, including AMCO, whose workers were attacked working on this. 2 attackers came around 7:30 p.m. on Sunday evening and started firing indiscriminately, killing the 6 men and also a doctor. They have clearly said they want the attack to attack the infrastructure, as it will increase the strength of the military if this infrastructure is completed and Jammu and Kashmir, all regions will be accessible 12 months right round the clock across the year and no cutting off during the winter months. Most striking factor is the elections were held for almost 45 days, during which the vulnerability was at its peak, but not a single attack was reported. However, within days of the results, 2 attacks have been reported, said sources. Now, according to initial assessment, the terrorists don't want the Indian government to bring back normalcy in the region. After the successful abrogation of Article 370, in which Pakistan's ISI failed to do anything major, the bar is now lowered to hybrid killing so that something is visible and there is an attempt to try and instill some fear and also disturb normal peace. The ISI is also so desperate that they want to kill anyone with the help of these LET fronts or proxies and Jaish Qadr. The use of sophisticated weapons such as M4 and an AK-47 clearly suggests the role of handlers, sources said, and a lot of this talk may be what the American forces troops left behind in Afghanistan. Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Omar Abdullah visited the SKIMS hospital in Srinagar to inquire about the health of the civilians who were injured in the Gagan Gate terror attack. He condemned the attack, which came barely 4 days after he was sworn in as Chief Minister of the Union Territory. Jammu and Kashmir LG Manoj Sinha strongly condemned the heinous terror attack on civilians and he vowed revenge. He posted on platform X that those behind this despicable act will not go unpunished, and also relief and insurance cover has been immediately announced. Compensations been announced for the families of the deceased and also those injured. LG Manoj Sinha also met with the family of those who were injured and went to the SKIMS hospital. Meanwhile, Dr. Farooq Abdullah has warned Pakistan of very severe consequences if it didn't stop fostering terrorism on Bharatiya soil. A shift in stance from his earlier statements. He's always espoused for talks with Pak, but now he's echoing the India government stance that he won't allow Pakistan to spread terror in the valley. And if talks have to happen, Pakistan must end this proxy war. Terror must end.
अब बताइए मुझे, इन दरिंदों को मिलेगा क्या? क्या वो समझते हैं इससे यहाँ पाकिस्तान बनेगा? आज कई सालों से हम ये देख रहे हैं कि वो आ रहे हैं वहाँ से, और हम कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि ये मामला ख़त्म हो और हम लोग आगे बढ़ें, हम लोग मुश्किलों से निकल सकें। मैं पाकिस्तान के हुक्मरानों से ये कहना चाहता हूँ, अगर वो सचमुच हिंदुस्तान से दोस्ती चाहते हैं तो फिर ये बंद कीजिए। कश्मीर पाकिस्तान नहीं बनेगा, नहीं बनेगा, नहीं बनेगा।
Viewers, there's a deliberate attempt to create a Darka Mahal in Bharat around the festive season, and we all know who within and outside are in on this toolkit. Sample this: derail attempts that with our entire railway systems and networks span Bharat to try and dissuade people from travelling by rail, attempt to hurt revenues, routes, and also instill this entire sense of fear among the travellers and passengers. No-fly hoax calls being made by so-called terrorists along with these hoax calls about explosives on board. Clear attempt to dissuade people from flying and hurt airline business commercially. These open calls by these platform decay extremists in Canada, all of this is being done with a deliberate intent to try and create this entire fear-mongering, atmosphere in our country. Explosives planted near schools on Sundays to again instill a sense of anxiety. Attack on innocents by cowards at a soon-to-be completed tunnel that will ensure connectivity in Jammu and Kashmir all through the winter. All of this is deliberate, and we must look at it from a comprehensive prism. We as a nation not only need to call this out, but also ensure that we don't succumb to this fear-mongering. Bharat aage badh raha hai, and some forces inimical to our country are unable to digest this. Let us as a nation continue to power through and scoff at such attempts. We should not succumb to their fear-mongering, nor should we allow it. If they get desperate and do something stupid beyond these Gidar Bhabkis, we then have the grounds to do active pest control even beyond our borders, ladies and gentlemen. Let's remember that. Let us please headline Bharat and its resolve, not these empty threats. Time for a very short break. When we come back, a big revelation by the former ambassador Sanjay Verma about these K extremist elements who are deep assets of the Canadian intelligence. Stay with us.
शोभना
Where 24 hours have gone by and the person who had placed the bomb over here has still not been identified by the Delhi police. I'll just try and show you around in the visuals over here, the area in which the bomb blast happened. This is the area where the bomb blast happened, and if you look around from this entire area, on the other side are the lines, are the eateries that are lined up over here, as you have been mentioning. Now all these shops are closed at this very point. Now remember, the impact was, this entire blast was such that there are broken windows that can be seen on the other side of the road as well. Now what Delhi police sources are telling us, that in the investigation that they have done, or through the CCTV footage that they have been able to go through at this point in time, 3 people can be seen as suspects or have been identified as people of interest. One of them was a person who was seen at this very spot on Saturday night at approximately 10:30, 11 p.m. in the night. He was seen at this very spot, he waited at this spot and then went away from here. That person has not been identified at this point in time. Apart from that, 2 other people who were also seen in and around this entire area having suspicion movement. Now in the CCTV footages that have been gone through by the Delhi police at this point in time, these 3 people are being said as the persons of interest. However, the identification of either of these 3 people have still not happened, and the person or the perpetrator of this entire crime has still not been identified by the Delhi police. Once the investigation was taken over by the Delhi police, or started by Delhi police yesterday, there was one person who was initially interrogated by them, and then eventually he was allowed to let go of as well. So definitely at this point in time, there is no substantial evidence that the Delhi police, or for that matter any other agency, be it the NSG or the CRPF, have been able to pinpoint as to who could be the person who might be behind this attack. Yes, there are different theories that are being looked into at this point in time as to what could be the reason for using a bomb which had actually such a high radius of impact that shops which are approximately 20 to 30 meters away from this spot, they have been impacted. But interestingly, in these bombs, there sharp objects, no sharpnels, no broken glass material that was put over here, because generally in bombs or IEDs that are used, such materials are being put into the bomb so that the entire bomb becomes more potent, so that once the explosion happens, then these objects, sharpnels and other things could actually go ahead and hurt people, and the impact of that blast could increase. But interestingly, in this explosion, there has been no sort of sharpnels or any other sharp objects that have been used. So was this entire blast done just to give some sort of a message, is something that is being investigated. Apart from this, another thing that is being looked into is the Khalistani angle. Remember, one of the channels on Telegram in fact had posted this, that this entire incident has been done by Khalistani supporters, because the manner in which the attacks are happening on Khalistanis across the world, they wanted to give this message that Khalistanis are much closer to the Indian agencies that they expect. Now, if I could just show you over here, just moments ago, a team of CRPF had come over here. Remember, CRPF have this expertise when it comes to looking into IED blast, because they are the people who are operating in places like Dantewada and other places in Chhattisgarh where there is a massive maoist impact and there is a lot of IEDs that are being used. So over here, there is also, it is being said that IEDs were used, and hence a team of CRPF had come up over here. They have monitored the entire location over here. They have measured the size of impact that the bomb blast has made. Somewhere or the other, they will try to figure out as to what is the quantity of explosives that were used over here, and what kind of explosive was also used over here. Was it a highly technical IED, or was it an IED that could have been made by anyone, is something that the CRPF will come out with. But at this point in time, as the investigation is going ahead, the biggest issue is that the person who had placed the bomb over here has still not been identified, and hence the reason why this blast took place on a Sunday morning at 7:30 a.m. is still not very, very clear. Well, this entire spot was actually closed by the Delhi police for more than 12 to 13 hours yesterday itself. It is only at approximately 7:30 to 8 p.m. in the evening yesterday that this crime scene was opened and the barricades were removed from this entire area. So during that period of 12 to 13 hours, agencies like CRPF, NSG and the Delhi police, the FSL of the Delhi police, have all visited the spot and have collected evidences from on ground over here. Now the team of CRPF that had come over here, they had just come up over here to measure the impact to measure the impact of this entire crime scene. Or
some Khalistani extremists are deep assets of Canada's Security Intelligence Service or CSIS. In an interview to Canada-based CTV News, Ambassador Sanjay Verma said this. The recalled ambassador accused the Canadian government of encouraging Khalistani extremists. He said extremists are continuously encouraged by the Canadian government and that Canada must take Bharat's core concerns seriously and stop being bedfellows with those challenging Bharat's sovereignty and integrity. He went on to call allegations in the Nijjar case as politically motivated.
They wanted to leave for India on the 8th of October. They gave their completed application form only on the 8th of October. So visa needs to be affixed. For any delegation, government delegation to travel to another country, you need an agenda to go by. There was no agenda at all. So therefore, it was largely technical. I have to find the correct official on the Indian side so that the kind of things that I wanted to discuss, for which I needed an agenda. There was no agenda shared with us. Agenda was shared at the last moment, I believe, even after the flight would have departed. So it was nothing to do with it. I think it was pre-planned. They knew that the visa cannot be issued in half an hour to an hour, and therefore they did it. I think it was absolutely politically motivated.
Well, Sushant Sareen, Senior Fellow ORF, is with us this evening. Ray Locker, author and journalist, joins us, and so does Terry Milewski, author and commentator, and also leading a think tank in Canada. My namaste, gentlemen. Thank you very much for your time. Ray Locker, how would you assess this situation? Because the recalled ambassador is citing what perhaps is an open secret. The other question is that it cannot be just Trudeau who's doing this. There have to be other elements who are deliberately pushing these kind of entities or extremists under the garb of FOE or freedom of expression. Because that doesn't extend to journalists who are saying their piece. There's been a crackdown otherwise. And it doesn't extend to Pakistan ISI operating there, the Chinese MSS operating on Canadian soil. Sri Lankans worried about the LTT finding safe haven. The Israelis have now raised concerns that Hezbollah, Hamas cadre are getting an open ticket in Canada.
Well, this is something that's happened in a variety of countries when you have exile communities that live there and have influence with the government of those countries. You know, I've worked on stories involving, Middle Eastern extremists who live in the United Kingdom, who support people in the United States, who are charged with terrorism. So I'm not surprised that there are these allegations surrounding the Khalistani community in Canada. I mean, when you have a group of people who live in a country and have access to government officials, their words get heard. And it's rather surprising to me that India doesn't have more leverage with the Canadians, but that often happens. I mean, you have exile groups around the world who got kicked out of whatever country they came from, and they grow in influence in the countries that they now live in. And so all of this is pretty much part of a textbook that happens in a variety of places.
And Balraj Nijjar, Hardeep Nijjar's son, confirmed that the RCMP and the Canadian intelligence actually had warned them, and they were in continuous touch, or consistent touch. So Ambassador Sanjay Verma only echoing the same, Sushant Sareen.
Yeah, I think on the Indian side, there have been reports in the Indian media where Indian officials feel that not just in Canada but also in the United States, the kind of long rope which is given to, for example, in the US to Pannu, or in Canada to all these Khalistani thugs, is done because they're part of they are like assets. Now, yes, it is true that there are many countries where there are these kind of communities which do develop some degree of influence. But I think there is another side to the story, which is that many countries, the UK in particular, actually cultivate some of these elements because it also gives them courage to carry out their own foreign policy. Qatar nowadays is a prime example. All the despicable elements from all across the Islamic world come and congregate in Qatar and are given, space to operate from there. So if the Taliban want to talk, then they will be in Qatar and they are given a place to from where they can carry out negotiations. Hamas is there. You name the group, they are there, right? So there are countries which actually do this. Now, maybe in the case of Canada, it's partly for political reasons, partly they're trying to do certain leverages. There is domestic political considerations and international leverages. I don't know what exactly it might be. But look, the reason, Anand, there are these questions which are being raised or suspicions that are being voiced is because of the kind of long rope which is given to these guys. Now, it's the same Canada which has just banned another organization, a Middle Eastern organization in Canada, partly because of the kind of hate speech they've been making, partly because they've been burning flags and all kinds of other things they've been doing. How does it apply to them and not to the Khalistani guys? There's no explanation. Trudeau comes and feels brave enough to say that, whenever the Indians have given information, I've taken action. He has not cited a single instance in which any action has been taken against any of these characters.
Correct.
So obviously questions will then be raised, and then you have the RCMP acting with the kind of alacrity, confessing that there was no imminent danger, no imminent threat, and yet on a weekend, not just a weekend, I think it was the one of their occasions which these guys celebrate out there. Thanksgiving, I believe. On that weekend, when everybody's on a holiday, these guys come out and hold this press conference.
Yes.
When there's nothing, there's no imminent danger, there's no threat, they come out and do it. And then the entire sequence of events that the High Commissioner has recounted, that on the day they want to travel, they send in visa requests. Would the Canadians or the Americans or any other country do the same, for example, if India was to apply for these kind of visas? No, they won't.
Yeah.
So what is this kind of...
No, with respect to David Coleman Headley, it took more than 6.5 to 7 months, if my memory serves me right, if not more, for even India to secure permission or the ability to access David Coleman Headley and to interrogate him. And it was in the full view of the FBI, and it was all the Americans watching all the proceedings like a hawk. So that's there. That's one part. But Terry, how would you want to respond to what the ambassador has said and also what Sushant is saying?
Well, as bad as they make it sound, it may be worse. I've been following this for more than 20 years, and the insidious influence of separatist fanatics, extremists, or just plain activists, if you like, upon successive governments in Canada has been really quite alarming and very hard to explain. I'm thinking, for example, of the 2015 election, which brought Justin Trudeau to power, in which the former president of the World Sikh Organization is picking liberal candidates, not the local writing association, who are imposing candidates approved by the former president of the World Sikh Organization, which is a separatist organization. I don't say they're violent at all, but I do say that they're separatists. That's part of their constitution. Or I'm thinking of Trudeau's absurd trip to India in 2018, where a former convicted Palestinian terrorist, actually convicted of attempted murder, was invited to a couple of glittering diplomatic receptions in Mumbai and in New Delhi, posing for selfies with the Prime Minister's wife. Nobody in the Prime Minister's entourage, not Trudeau or any of his brilliant advisors or his MPs, nobody thought that this might be a little much to invite such a person to a dinner in New Delhi. I mean, that is so clueless, it's hard to believe. So how do they get this oversized influence? And why is it just the liberal answer? It is not just liberal. One more example, briefly, if I may.
Sure.
I can remember going back to 2007 now, a Vaisakhi parade in Surrey, British Columbia, featuring glamorous posters glorifying the Air India bomber, Sarvinder Pawar, who's a great hero of the sequence, a martyr, and so forth. And MPs from all parties were there, smile and wave and hustle for votes. And then interviewing them later, said, what do you think about these posters? I mean, isn't that a little much? And they said, well, we didn't realize.
True.
We were flabbergasted, said one of them. We were flabbergasted to see that. So he didn't approve of it, right? Wrong. Because he changed his view after the Conservative Party head office. The Prime Minister Stephen Harper, a Conservative, was in power at the time. They called those MPs and said, no, don't say that. Don't say you're flabbergasted. Don't antagonize the Palestinians. You've got to reverse your position. They had to climb down and say, no, we weren't flabbergasted. Oh, nothing wrong with this. No problem here. So this influence is powerful, and it crosses party lines. And don't get me started on Jagmeet Singh, upon whom, well, no, the Trudeau government has depended for its survival thus far.
True.
And that, of course, is coming to an end. And Trudeau's probably toast anyway, as you also know. And that was true before this all.
No, see, if you look at the WSO, Ray Locker, and there is a complex flowchart. It's second generation, third generation of the original group of Khalistani terrorists who fled India, who are now part of the polity, not just in Canada, but they are also entrenched into the administration and policy framework in the US. Now, the other question is, many ask that Israel will not be able to flex this kind of muscle had America not backed it. The same way, does it also apply to Canada? That Canada would not be able to take these positions and make these utterances had it not got a tacit backing of the US. So what is US's interest? Or is US deliberately playing this good cop, bad cop game? But on the one hand, they want to continue to engage with India and improve relations, while on the other hand, they want to keep fiddling India via Canada.
Well, I don't really think that's true, but I don't know for sure. Obviously, U.S. and Canadian intelligence work with each other on a variety of things. I mean, we're both English-speaking countries, and there's been a natural tendency to work together. But I also know inside intelligence agencies around the world, there's a healthy skepticism of what comes from other countries, as there should be. I mean, we look at what happened 20 years ago with the Iraq War and some of the bad intel we got from around the world, and we got gulled into starting that war, and we shouldn't have. So I don't know about the specifics. I certainly hope the United States is not using Canada to meddle with India, because it's not in the U.S. best interests. I think there's a natural sympathy towards some exile groups who feel like they've been done wrong by whatever country they came from. But I think that is extremely naive, because these people are up to no good sometimes, and you got to look at them with extreme scrutiny. Also, you have to take with a grain of salt what other countries like India say. You know, that these people are bad. We don't know, but you have to research it. And you can't just take somebody's assurance that everything is good or everything is bad. You got to do your own work.
Okay. Now, if there is an Interpol red corner notice against an individual who's been refused citizenship or entry into a country thrice, and there is also the case that this person is designated a terrorist by nations, he's committed acts of heinous crime and is a known gangster. Now, if you were to be sitting in the immigration cell, Ray Locker, would you admit such a person in your country, grant that person residency and citizenship?
No, absolutely not. I mean, there's a good reason for all that evidence that's been built up against that person.
So the red corner notice comes in 2016, and in 2018, 2019, Hardeep Nijjar gets Canadian citizenship and entry into Canada. And this is the person who's dead on Canadian soil, and he's mourned in the Canadian House, in the Canadian Parliament, without a single ounce of credible proof, Sushant Sareen, that he's been done in by foreign entities or by a government outside of Canada. This is the current state of affairs in Canada. Goldie Barar is active in Canada. Arsh Dalla was warned by the RCMP and the CSIS that there is a threat to him. Hardeep Nijjar, a wanted person with a red corner notice on Interpol. Goldie Barar has a red corner notice. Arsh Dalla has a red corner notice and letter rogatory submitted to Canada. And they were all operating on Canadian soil, Sushant Sareen. So if this is not deliberate, then what is? And why is Canada doing it? What's in Canada's interest if the US is not the one that's propping Canada up and asking it to do it? Final word.
So on that one level, you can excuse Canada, because after all, if they can call a Nazi to their parliament and then, show him around as though he was some kind of a freedom fighter, then surely they can call a Khalistani and they can defend him. So maybe it's just the system. But on a more serious note, there are very serious charges against these guys, and it's not as though, for example, the American intelligence agencies or any other intelligence agency is not aware of the antecedents and of the actions that some of these guys have been accused of, and what are the kind of things these guys are involved in.
Right.
Now, if CSIS or the CIA or the FBI are such solid organizations, such kick-ass organizations, then how come they're not aware of the links of these guys with drug trafficking networks, with human trafficking networks, with gun running networks, with criminal gangs? How come they're not aware of all of this? Correct. If the FBI is so good, then how come they've not been able to track down the people who have attacked the Indian consulates, not on one occasion but on two occasions? Right. They've kept quiet about it. How come they're not able to get to the bottom of who is attacking, for example, because that would include hate speech, Hindu temples, for example. Right. How come they're not able to
No, vandalism, arson is all crossing the line. FOE does not allow vandalism, arson, but there have been no arrests. And if it is there is an instigator who's asking people to do it, then that also is on the wrong side of the law. Anyways, gentlemen, we'll take this conversation forward soon. But thank you for your time. I've run out of time here on the right stand. Brass Tacks with Zakir Jacob right now. Stay with us.
Good evening, this is Brass Tacks. I'm Zakir Jacob. 4 years after the Galwan incident, when 20 Indian soldiers were killed at the line of action control, India and China have now reached an agreement on disengagement at the two remaining holdout points, Depsang Valley and Demchok. Now, the Foreign Minister and the Foreign Secretary both have confirmed that a patrolling arrangement has also been arrived at. So the question, which is critical and which needs to be answered, is are we back to the pre-2020 status quo when China unilaterally attacked Indian soldiers in Galwan Valley, and that changed what had been the status quo for the better part of the last 30 years up until that point. Does this now pave the way also for a potential bilateral meeting between Prime Minister Modi and President Xi Jinping of China on the sidelines of the BRICS summit in Kazan in Russia? Because the announcement came today, just 24 hours before the Prime Minister leaves for that BRICS summit. And let's not forget, even for a moment, the overall global context in which this is happening. There are two wars right now, Israel-Hamas, Russia-Ukraine. There's also ongoing tensions between India and some Western countries on the Khalistan issue. So the fact that India and China, after 4 long years, 30 plus meetings of the WMCC, 20 plus meetings of the Corps commanders, have finally come to an agreement to a pre-2020 status quo is a huge deal. What are the contours of that deal and how we got here? We'll try and discuss threadbare, but first, the story so far.
We reached an agreement on patrolling, and with that, the disengagement, we have gone back to where the situation was in 2020.
Agreement has been arrived at on patrolling arrangements along the line of actual control in the India-China border areas, leading to disengagement and a resolution of the issues that had arisen